So I'm thinking about the video Christmas time that I did. Um, if you're new to the channel and haven't seen that yet, I'll put a link in the description for that video. And in that video, I was talking about, well, I mentioned counselling. So I thought we'd just explore that a bit more today. So, from my understanding, it appears that counselling is becoming more widely acceptable these days. At one time, there was a massive stigma towards receiving counselling. And yeah, I would say there's probably still is to a degree today, but not so much as it used to be. People becoming more aware of the fact that it's not just counselling is not just for one type of person. Counselling's there for all different walks of life. Counselling has been used to help people through bereavement, which is perfectly understandable, helping people process the loss of a loved one. Childhood traumas, adult traumas, marriage breakdowns, divorces. Let's see, it's just not just things like depression and yeah, various mental health issues. And I always say that I strongly recommend counselling for anybody. And the biggest thing that I always say is it only really works if you can be honest with your counsellor and honest with yourself. Not as easy as it sounds, but that's the only way it can work. When people turn around to me and say, oh, it doesn't work. I've been there, I've said that. If you find yourself uncomfortable with the counsellor you have, there is nothing wrong with saying, this isn't working for me, can I try somebody else? We are all human beings, we all have different characteristics, different personalities. We can clash with people for no particular reason. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with that counsellor. It just means they're not the fit for you. It's like the analogy that comes to my mind right now is like putting a glove on. Although I'm just thinking you can get magic gloves which are meant to fit everybody, but let's ignore the magic gloves just now. You have to find the right size of glove to fit your hand. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with the size that doesn't fit your hand because it fits somebody else's hand. So like a counsellor, it's much the same with a counsellor. There's nothing wrong per se with the counsellor. They might be a better fit for somebody else. So if you have a bad experience with a counsellor, a bad session, a bad whatever, don't give up. I strongly recommend trying a different counsellor. And there's lots of different types of counselling out there as well. It's like everybody here knows of CBT and everyone will talk about CBT. Doesn't mean CBT will work for everybody. For those, if there's anybody out there that doesn't know what CBT is, it's cognitive behavioural therapy. And counselling is not a one size fits all. That's why there's all different types of counselling forms to fit different people. And for some people, counselling could be half a dozen sessions and they're good to go. That's okay. Other people might take longer, might take years. That's fine. Different things take different times to process. Different people take different times to process. That's okay. Myself, personally, as this channel is about my experiences with mental health issues, may as well draw my own experiences with counselling. I would say I'm on my 9th counsellor, I think. First couple of attempts didn't go so well. I refused point blank. I was never going back to counselling ever again. She says now 9 counsellors on. Yeah, then someone encouraged me to try again. And I went, I got a different person, and it wasn't a complete click, but it was enough to be able to persevere through. And we did get a lot of things talked through, got my processing brought forward a bit more. And then I got to a point where I reached things that I felt uncomfortable to tell her and talk to her about. At the time, quite naively, I thought, well, maybe I'm just never going to be able to deal with that, and I just have to cope with that, brush it under the rug, as they say. So I finished up with that counsellor, thinking, well, that's me done. I've done it. Don't need to go back to counselling again. And some years later, in fact, I was going to say some years later, well, some years later, it was after my son was born and diagnosed with postnatal depression. And my doctor was concerned that one of my coping mechanisms from when I was younger had come back, and felt I should try counselling again to see if there's anything still needing processed. And I'm thinking, but that's not my problem. My problem is that I'm struggling to cope being a new mum, and husband's not well, and but I thought, well, I'm trusting this doctor to help me get better, and so I need to kind of try it, and then at least I can say, well, I tried it, it didn't work, it wasn't what I needed. Went along to my first session, my assessment session, and surprised myself as to what came out of my mouth. I was like, I didn't realise all that was still bothering me. So yeah, went back and got this lovely lady who I have to say was the fit. I thought, I'll never get this again. This is my fit. This is my counsellor. This is, yeah. She was brilliant. Really liked her. She made me feel so at ease, and there was things that I couldn't have said to the other counsellor that I could have said to her. Unfortunately, I started getting her just a few months, well, maybe about 6 months before she was due to retire. And I was like, well, I don't want to get to know another counsellor. I've had two bad counsellors at the very beginning. Well, no, not bad counsellors, but bad experiences of counsellors. And I learned a lot about myself through her counselling. I started to see things with a different perspective better. But she retired before I was finished, I would say. And so I went to her replacement thinking, I'm really not sure about this, but I'll do it. Again, the fit wasn't just 100%, but she was nice enough and I'm sure more than capable of her job. Probably perfect fit for somebody else, but there was things that I just didn't feel I could talk to her about. So we tried a form of therapy called EMDR, which is related to the rapid eye movement when you're dreaming. Because I say when you're dreaming, that's when you're doing a lot of processing of what you've been through, and when something traumatic happens, it can get stuck, and sometimes you need that wee nudge to help it process. And I have to say that the MDR was extremely hard, and really brings you right down before bringing you back up. If you're going into the MDR, you need to be prepared that it does get worse before it gets better. But getting worse does not mean it's not working. It actually means the opposite. For myself, it got so bad that I did have to take a month's break before returning to it. And when I returned, I found I suddenly could see where I had made improvements. And I did put another month into that before she then left. And I remember walking out my last session and I was like, I'm buzzing. I'm absolutely flying. I text messaged my son's health visitor, and this is, I've got this song in my head. It's I'm Walking on Sunshine by Katrina and the Waves. And that was all I could hear in my head all day. I was like, yeah, I feel good. And it feels good to feel good. In the past, I would have felt, oh no, I feel good. I'm heading for a plummet. And from then, I was working towards coming off my antidepressants. That's how good I was. And I did. I got off my antidepressants, and I was off them for almost a year. Maybe 8 months, 8, 9 months, give or take. At that time, there was a counsellor at my son's school who was available for the children, but she was also available for the staff and parents of the children. So I went to her for a one-off session to try and sift through in my mind. My son was getting bullied, and I wasn't entirely comfortable with how it was being handled. And there was that doubt going on. It was like, are you overreacting, or are you right to be not happy with how it's been handled? That kind of thing. So I suppose most parents would be, I don't know. Anyway, so I asked her if I could maybe have a one-off session just to kind of thrash it all out. And the crazy thing was, I walked into that room and it literally was like verbal diarrhea of just about everything I'd been through, bullying, etc. It was just whoosh. And I'm like, where did all that come from? And she says to me, you know, I could offer you sessions. I feel I could work with you if you're willing to take them on. And I was like, well, I didn't see that coming. But just over a year later, I was still seeing her before she felt she needed to move on. And I did so much with her, even stuff that I hadn't said to the counsellor. Remember, I said the counsellor was a perfect fit. I thought I'd never find somebody else like her. But this one was just a whole new level. And she had this knack of just being there, and somehow you could open up to her. And it wasn't even just me, like a good fit with me. I was aware of how the kids were interacting with her, and staff had said to me how they found her easy to talk to and how they could go into her room to discuss work and end up coming out an hour later feeling the weight had been taken off their shoulders because they ended up talking about something else. I did a lot of work with her. A year and so many months is a long time to be working with a counsellor, and it was hard to let her go. Um, so just as she was leaving, just before she left, I started a college course. I'm doing counselling at college. I'm learning to become a counsellor myself. That's why I like to emphasise the fact that these videos are my perspective as opposed to an expert's perspective. Because at the moment I am no expert in anything to do with mental health other than my life experience. So I, because I made such a connection with this counsellor, it kind of hit me hard when she left. So my college arranged for me to meet with another counsellor for, no, it's one of these counselling groups that only have limited sessions. So we're coming to the end of those limited sessions, and I have an appointment next week with somewhere that the previous organisation before the school counsellor. And in that time with that last counsellor, I came to learn that it's okay. I probably will have re-triggers as a mum. If my son's bullied, it'll bring back bullying memories. If something else happens to him, it could bring back some other memories. When he meets a girlfriend, maybe when he's older, who knows? Things he experiences could bring back things for me. And I'm prepared for that now. It won't be easy, but at least I know that when that comes, there's nothing wrong with returning to counselling again and again and again. It's going to be hard having to deal with getting to know new people again, because I have major trust issues, and so it can take me 4 to 6 sessions at least to just feel comfortable with a counsellor before I feel able to open up about big stuff, except for the 2 that I mentioned were really good fits. So as somebody who has been through counselling, I know the benefits, I know how much it helps, and I know that I will more than likely need those benefits again somewhere in the future. I'm still processing the fact that that doesn't have to mean that I have failed, which is a big thing that I felt when I ended up back on my antidepressants, was that I had failed. So that's something I'm still working on. And I think with mental health issues, it's a daily work in progress. There might not ever be a end timeline on working on it, but I think it's very much worth it. there's all different kinds of reasons why people need counselling, and it doesn't have to be because you feel like you're falling apart or you're insane or whatever the negative imagery is that you have in your head. Just means that you know you've reached your limit on how you can deal with it on your own, and now's the time to bring someone else in to give you some help. As I say to Joseph, my son, I say, I like teamwork. And that's what it is. It's just teamwork, helping you process various things in your life, helping you to find new perspectives in dealing with tough stuff. And if you're thinking of getting some counselling help, I would strongly recommend it. If you can find somebody who's been through counselling that can recommend one to you, would be good, but not essential, because all you have to do is hit Google counselling in my area and various things will come up, and they will have websites that can tell you all about what they offer. I mean, like, for example, you'd be able to rule out one to do with drug and alcohol addiction if, say, your issue is bereavement. You're not going to go to a drug and addiction counsellor if you're trying to process a bereavement. I hope that this video has given you some positive insights into counselling. I hope that if you're considering going for counselling, that it has encouraged you. If any of these videos have been of any help, then please feel free to subscribe and get the notifications set up so that you can have more of these videos. You'll get notified when I put a new one up. Please feel free to put comments about your own experiences, or if you need advice or help, or just whatever, even feedback on my videos, although please keep it kind. And I just want to thank you for listening to this rather long video. I apologise and hope you're still with me. Okay, thank you. Bye.